7 mind-blowing historical facts that will completely change how you see the past. Get ready because what you're about to discover will shock you, amuse you, and maybe even disturb you a little bit. These aren't the boring dates and battles you memorized in school. These are the wild, weird, and absolutely fascinating stories that textbooks somehow forgot to mention. I'm talking about the kind of facts that make you stop mid-conversation and say, "Wait, that actually happened?" The stories that sound too crazy to be true but are backed by solid historical evidence. From ancient hygiene practices that will make your stomach turn to presidential photo scandals that fooled an entire nation, we're diving deep into the strangest corners of human history. But here's what makes this different from every other history video you've watched. I've spent weeks digging through archives, historical records, and academic papers to bring you facts that 99% of people have never heard before. These aren't just random trivia bits. Each one of these stories reveals something profound about human nature, innovation, and the bizarre ways our ancestors lived their lives. So buckle up, because we're about to take a journey through time that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about history. But first, your luck might just change if you hit that like button and subscribe before this video ends. Number 1. Let's start with something that kept our ancestors awake at night, literally trembling with fear. Picture this. It's the 1700s, and you're living in constant terror of something that sounds like it came straight out of a horror movie. The fear of being buried alive was so widespread that it consumed entire communities. Medical knowledge back then was primitive at best, and doctors regularly mistook unconscious patients or people in deep comas for being dead. This wasn't just paranoia. There are documented cases of coffins being opened years later, only to find scratch marks on the inside of the lid. Clear evidence that someone had woken up 6 feet underground and desperately tried to claw their way out. The wealthy became obsessed with avoiding this fate. They invented what they called safety coffins, complete with bells attached to strings that ran down into the grave. If you woke up underground, you could pull the string and ring the bell above ground to alert someone. Some even had breathing tubes installed. The really paranoid rich folks wrote into their wills that their bodies should be kept above ground for several days, or that their hearts should be physically removed to guarantee they were truly dead. This fear became such a cultural phenomenon that it appeared in literature, newspapers, and even official patent records. Imagine living every day wondering if your final rest might turn into your worst nightmare. Number 2. Now let's talk about what happens when genius meets failure. Thomas Edison, the man we celebrate as one of history's greatest inventors, failed spectacularly more than 1,000 times before creating the light bulb that changed the world. Think about that for a moment. Over 1,000 attempts, different materials, different filaments, different approaches, and every single one either burned out immediately or didn't work at all. Most people would have given up after 10 tries, maybe 20. But when reporters asked Edison how it felt to fail so many times, his response became legendary. He didn't see it as failure at all. Instead, he said he had successfully discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work. That mindset shift from failure to learning is what separated a true innovator from everyone else who quit when things got difficult. In 1879, all that persistence finally paid off when he created a practical, long-lasting electric light bulb. That single invention launched the age of electricity and transformed human civilization. But it only happened because Edison refused to see failure as an endpoint. Number 3. Here's where things get really weird. If you think ancient people were primitive, wait until you hear about their dental hygiene routine. In ancient Rome, the go-to method for cleaning your teeth wasn't some herbal paste or primitive brush. They used urine. Yes, you heard that correctly. Human urine. Now, before you completely lose it, there was actually some science behind this disgusting practice. Urine contains ammonia, which is indeed a natural cleaning agent that can remove stains and whiten teeth. The Romans weren't just randomly deciding to put bodily fluids in their mouths. They genuinely believed this was the most effective way to maintain dental health. But here's the part that takes it from gross to absolutely bizarre. Romans didn't just use any urine. They had preferences. Portuguese urine was considered the premium choice, so much so that it was actually imported for wealthy Romans who wanted the best dental care money could buy. There was literally an international trade in human urine for dental purposes. The demand became so massive that Emperor Nero saw a business opportunity and imposed an official tax on urine. Imagine being the tax collector responsible for that particular revenue stream. Number 4. The 19th century brought us photography, but it also brought us one of the most unsettling traditions in human history. When photography was new and expensive, most families only had a few chances in their entire lives to capture images of their loved ones. So when someone died, families faced a heartbreaking dilemma: let them go without any final photograph, or find a way to take one last picture together. They chose the photograph, leading to the rise of post-mortem photography. This practice became known as mourning portraits, and families would go to extraordinary lengths to make their deceased loved ones appear as lifelike as possible. They would prop the body up in a chair, use special techniques to keep the eyes open, and arrange family members around them as if they were simply posing for a normal family portrait. The photographers of that era developed specific skills for these sessions, knowing exactly how to position bodies and use lighting to create the illusion of life. What strikes me most about this tradition is how it reveals the desperate human need to hold on to our loved ones, even after death. In an age before smartphones and instant photography, these mourning portraits were often the only visual memory families would have. Today we might find it macabre, but back then it was considered a beautiful and necessary way to honor the dead and preserve their memory forever. Number 5. Let's jump ahead to 1912 and one of the most hilarious political photo scandals in American history. Theodore Roosevelt was already famous for his larger-than-life personality and his love of adventure. The man was practically a walking cartoon character of American bravado. So when a magazine published a dramatic photograph showing Roosevelt riding a massive moose while crossing a river, people actually believed it. Think about how absurd that sounds today. A sitting president riding a wild moose like it was a horse. But Roosevelt's reputation was so outrageous that this seemed perfectly plausible. The photograph was actually an early example of photo manipulation, incredibly sophisticated for 1912 standards. Some skilled editor had combined images to create this fantasy scene, but the technology was so new that most people had no idea such trickery was even possible. The fake photo served its purpose perfectly. It reinforced Roosevelt's image as a fearless outdoorsman who would literally ride wild animals into battle if necessary. Even today, more than a century later, that image remains one of the most iconic and amusing pieces of American political imagery. It shows how powerful a single photograph can be in shaping public perception, especially when it confirms what people already want to believe. Number 6. Now here's a story that shows how fame and respect don't always translate into political power. When Israel's first president died in 1952, the government faced a crucial decision about who should lead their young nation next. They needed someone with international credibility, someone the world would respect and take seriously. Their choice was perhaps the most famous scientist who ever lived, Albert Einstein. The offer makes perfect sense when you think about it. Einstein was universally respected, his name was synonymous with genius, and his Jewish heritage made him a natural fit for Israel's leadership. Having Einstein as president would have given Israel instant credibility on the world stage and sent a powerful message about the nation's intellectual ambitions. But Einstein turned them down. His reasoning was refreshingly honest and humble. He admitted he had zero political experience and recognized that his talents lay in scientific research, not governance. He understood the difference between being famous for your intellect and actually having the skills needed to run a country. It's a rare example of someone with massive ego turning down ultimate power because they genuinely believed they weren't the right person for the job. Number 7. What happened to Einstein's brain after he died 3 years later? Dr. Thomas Harvey performed the autopsy and made a decision that would create controversy for decades. Without asking Einstein's family for permission, Harvey removed the great scientist's brain and kept it for himself. Harvey claimed he was preserving it for scientific study, hoping to unlock the biological secrets behind Einstein's incredible intelligence. He sliced the brain into 240 pieces, photographed each section, and stored them in jars. For years, Harvey kept Einstein's brain hidden away, conducting his own amateur research while the scientific community remained largely unaware of what had happened. And there you have it, 7 absolutely mind-bending facts that prove history is far stranger and more fascinating than anything Hollywood could dream up. From safety coffins with bells to presidential moose rides, from urine-based dental care to stolen genius brains, these stories remind us that the past was filled with people just as weird, innovative, and utterly human as we are today. Which fact shocked you the most? Drop a comment below and let me know what blew your mind.